Walter Elias Disney was born in Chicago on December 5, 1901. Much of Disney's love for art began during his childhood in Chicago, on his family farm in Missouri, and in Kansas City. Walt Disney presented the world with characters that displayed an emotional complexity and spirit that characters of other artists lacked, including Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse first debuted in 1928 in New York City with the release of Steamboat Willie. Mickey was created with the cooperation between Ub Iwerks and Walt Disney. While releasing Mickey Mouse, they had in mind a cartoon in which music, effects, and action would all become synchronized. Over time, the character of Mickey Mouse showed progression in his attitude, physical traits, and personality. Prior to World War II, Disney's achievements included the debut of Mickey Mouse and other characters. Prior to their wartime work, Disney Studios had created other short films that conveyed messages to the public, such as The Three Little Pigs. Disney had not intended for this film to be anything more than entertainment, but the public viewed this as Disney's comic and fable form on the Depression era. Walt Disney advanced the style and technology of animation and forever altered the entertainment industry through the creation of the animated feature film. Walt Disney worked along with his brother Roy in Kansas City in order to create the animation industry. During World War II, Disney used animation to help the Allied war effort. Walt Disney thought that the concept of animation would help with training films for the military in ways that no live-action movie could. Although Disney believed that animation would help the military, he did not personally volunteer to create propaganda for the war. Disney's experiences in 1919 with World War I helped him with his World War II efforts. He wanted to enlist in the Army in World War I, but was unable to because of his age, and became a Red Cross ambulance driver instead. He was known as the unit's unofficial artist because he painted fake medals onto jackets and camouflage captured German helmets in order for them to be passed off as sniper helmets. Later in 1919, Disney returned to the United States to make a career in commercial art. He ended up in Kansas City and began to work for the Kansas City Film and Ad. Due to an unsuccessful venture in Kansas City, Disney had to move to Hollywood in 1923, and there he became a director. After moving his business to Hollywood, Disney was very successful. The day after Pearl Harbor, the United States Army moved into the Disney studio lot in Burbank, California, to house troops assigned to protect a nearby Lockheed aircraft plant, and remained there for the duration of the war. Walt Disney was then recruited by the government to create training films for the military. After Pearl Harbor, life dramatically changed. Food, gas, and clothing were rationed, and communities gathered scrap metal to help build armaments necessary to win the war. People also became dependent on radio reports for the fighting overseas, and popular entertainment such as Disney's propaganda served as an escapist outlet, allowing American brief getaways from war worries. Throughout the war, Disney and staff worked with the U.S. government and the military to produce training and educational films that entertained the public while enforcing ideas about wartime America. Disney created propaganda posters, comic books, and short films, designing about 1,200 different pieces of insignias. He provided his insignias for Nose Art, Red Cross, bombing squadrons, training schools, record books, and even Allied units. Disney's propaganda emphasized the importance of U.S. citizens' participation in military service and the need for domestic and foreign aid. Some of Disney's cartoons were produced to serve a purpose, such as New Spirit, aimed to encourage people to pay taxes, and Victory Vehicles, created to encourage Americans to conserve rubber and gasoline. Disney Studios' propaganda films were originally just intended for servicemen, but they were eventually released to the public too. Two-thirds of Americans went to the movies weekly, so Disney's shorts were played as trailers in order to reach the public. Due to prior experience in World War I, Disney understood that positive propaganda was gravely important for the boost in morale for soldiers. While talking about propaganda, Disney once said, "They meant a lot to the men who were fighting. How could you turn them down?" Disney understood that his colorful and lively propaganda increased confidence, hope, and morale for the military and public, because he understood that rallying through characters that were already popular and trusted would produce popular results. In 1939, as the Disney Studios worked on propaganda, they used different characters for different purposes based on personalities. Mickey Mouse was rarely found on war insignia because his personality was not very warlike, and he was viewed as the bashful, loving boy next door. Mickey was used for peacetime America propaganda because, as Disney said, he was simply a little personality assigned to the purposes of laughter. In contrast, Donald Duck was extremely popular during wartime propaganda because his personality was cocky, he had typical angry gestures, and was viewed as the feisty side of American culture. In all of Donald's films, he was quick-tempered, always ready for a fight, and viewed as a kind of guy that would be ideal in the trenches. Disney used Minnie Mouse primarily to approach the housewives and female population. Minnie Mouse was viewed as the all-American girl, and she exerted the innocence of a girl next door while maintaining an independence of her own, and these characters made her an effective character to help reach the women of wartime society. Disney helped illustrate major issues through his lovable and trusted characters, and this proved to be an effective method. Donald Duck, Minnie Mouse, Mickey Mouse, and the rest of the studio went to war with the nation in order to inspire them into contributing to a patriotic cause. The releases of many of Walt Disney's shorts were successful in completing their desired task because he simplified concepts, making them easy enough for children to understand. Once, when Disney was in an interview, he was asked about educating people through films. The following clipping is from the interview.
We just sort of base our stories on nature, and out of it does come something of educational value, but I'm not labeling anything as educational. It's all entertainment. But I mean, people can be educated and still be entertained.
Walt Disney worked with the government and military to produce military training and educational films that entertained the public while enforcing ideas about wartime America. By 1942, 75% of the studio's productions were government-based. Disney's wartime shorts were successful, such as New Spirit, ordered by the U.S. Treasury, featuring Daffy Duck, and it encouraged American citizens to pay their income taxes on time to support the war effort. It was effective because it explained the process of how to fill out a tax form in a simple step-by-step process. The following clipping is from the New Spirit, discussing what income taxes were needed for the war effort.
Your country is at war. Your country needs taxes for guns, taxes for ships, taxes for democracy, taxes to beat the Axis.
This film proved its effectiveness because prior to its release in 1939, 15% of taxpayers paid an income tax, but by 1943, the year after it was released, 80% paid taxes. The public responded positively to the film by submitting tax returns earlier than ever. The film helped because it emphasized that mailing in forms early would make taxes get to work faster for our nation. Another effective and important short was Out of the Frying Pan into the Firing Line, featuring Minnie Mouse in 1942. This film was directed towards housewives to teach them the importance of conservation and recycling of kitchen fats, which could be turned into glycerin for the war effort. The film explained how simple it was to contribute kitchen fats for the war effort, and how the local meat dealers would pay the donators accordingly in response to the weight donated. Mickey Mouse was shown as a boy on the front, which was rare because Donald Duck was usually used for wartime propaganda. This film was effective because women realized how they were important for the effort, and public began pouring in massive amounts of glycerin, which profited the nation and the people. Along with creating films requested by the government, Disney also contributed his own film in 1943, Victory Through Air Power, which was inspired by Alexander Seversky's book. Seversky was a Russian aircraft designer. As Disney created this film, Seversky worked alongside Disney artists to sketch rough images of aircrafts discussed in his book. Disney believed that the facts about air power should reach beyond the limited book-reading audience. The public response to this film was great, and people called it Disney's greatest film. New York Times called it, "This is the most encouraging and inspiring propaganda the screen has afforded us in a long time. Mr. Disney and staff can be proud of their accomplishment." Although very effective, Victory Through Air Power lost $400,000. Disney's short films were effective, but not smart business ventures. Post-war, the studio was in debt of $4,300,000 to the Bank of America. Along with the debt, the studio faced the challenge of rebuilding their staff after artists returned from military service. The studio could also not come up with a piece like Snow White to rescue themselves from the debt. Disney's films were essential in spurring public support. All in all, Disney's propaganda became a gateway and guide for people all over America, and Walt Disney left behind a huge legacy that lives on